Alright, so I'm gonna do the video of part 2 of why I was homeless. So alright, so I mean, if you like the last video, you're gonna love this one, because well, first of all, let me just say thanks to everyone who's sending me tips on PayPal and Cashapp and Venmo. I appreciate it. I mean, I appreciate you guys, dude. And another thing I want to say is someone sent me the last dollar they had in PayPal. Like, don't even do that. Like, if you're hurting for money or whatever, I definitely don't want nobody sending me their last dollar. Well, one time I gave away my last dollar. I'll do a video about that. But the only reason I did was because I was on my way to make money, and my point is, if you don't have disposable income, then don't send me anything. You know what I'm saying? Like, my video is not my video. I'm doing this YouTube to help people learn from my experiences. I'm not trying to put people out or nothing like that. So now, so yeah, you're gonna want to buckle up for this one. If you thought the last one was interesting, this, once I get to Vegas, this is where things start getting really interesting, because up until this point, I had thought I had dealt with some hardship in my life, but I had no idea what hardship was. Like, so in the last video, I went through like why basically I went through all the jobs I had, why I lost them, and I was starting to get the impression that God was trying to tell me that you are not meant to do this. You're not meant to do these construction jobs. You're meant to do something else. And I felt it deep in my heart. You know what I mean? Like, I couldn't even explain it to people. When I was telling my friends, like, I was going to go to Vegas and just kind of wing it, some of them were just like, dude, are you fucking nuts? Like, what are you going to do for a job? Like, you do construction and there's like no construction work. At least around here, we can throw you some work and shit, They're like, you're nuts, bro. And I'm thinking to myself, like, I can't even explain it to you, man. Like, it's just a feeling I have deep inside that it's what I gotta do, And I know it'd be easier probably not to do it, but this is what I feel. So I get to Vegas. Well, I drive to Vegas, and I really enjoyed driving across the country. It was cool. I had never seen, I've up until this point, I had only been on the East Coast. I had only been to like New York and Florida. Like, my whole family drove up and down from New York to Florida a couple of times. So I had been to every state between New York and Florida, but I had never been west of like Florida, So it was just cool driving through all that shit and seeing all that shit. And I remember, I had a Jeep Cherokee that was not in the best condition. So I remember I'm in like North Florida, and my transmission starts slipping, and I was just like, oh shit, I'm gonna break down in the middle of fucking nowhere, and I'm gonna be fucked. But somehow the transmission just kind of improved itself. I don't know how this shit works, and it worked for the rest of the way. But when it was slipping, I was really starting to doubt everything. I was like, oh my God. And before I left Florida, I sold most of my tools. I gave away what I couldn't sell. I pared my possessions down to like nothing. I took my clothes, I took my favorite tools to Vegas in case I had to work in construction, And so I had pared my possessions down to very little. And another interesting thing that happened on the way to Vegas was, in Arizona, I got a flat tire. And I had a ratchet set, and I had a tire iron. And this is a tire that I've changed a million tires, But this was a tire on my Jeep that had never gone flat. So I'm going to change it. I'm in the middle of Arizona, you know what I mean? And I'm going to change the tire, and one of the lug nuts is a different size. My uncle told me it's this security thing, because I told him about it later on. And I just happened to not have anything to fit that lug nut. And my tire iron, I had used it so many times changing tires that it was starting to like round off, you know? So it kind of fit, but it kept slipping. And I was just like, God damn, I'm fucked, you know? I'm sitting there on the side of the road, I can't get this lug nut off. And then up comes this highway patrol officer, and he looks kind of like a Spanish dude, but different, you know what I mean? As it turns out, he was a Navajo Indian, and one of the coolest people I ever met in my life. So I'm like, I explained the situation to him, and he was like, damn, he's like, well, let's see if we can both get it, you know? He's like, you push it on with all your might, and I'm gonna turn it, and we'll see if we can get it like that, because it kept slipping off. So we're trying to do that, and it's slipping. But then finally, this dude was strong as a fucking ox, bro. I'll tell you what. It was the tire, the lug nut was so tight on there, it was doing that thing where it's like, you know, and it's like making that noise. But he wrenched that motherfucker off while I was holding it on, and I wish I wasn't so broke. I would have gave him some money, but he was like, no, he's like, nah, dude. He's like, that's what I'm here for. But like, I had never met I mean, he was one of the coolest like police that ever walked the earth. I mean, this guy actually helped me. He wasn't out to give me no ticket. He was just like, yeah, let me help you out, you know? And he worked his ass off to help me out. And so, you know, I get the tire changed. I sleep in some national park in Arizona that night in my truck. I wake up the next day, there's snow on the ground. And I hadn't seen snow since I lived in New York, since I was a kid, and it was cool. I was not expecting snow in Arizona, you know? I was in like northern Arizona. Texas was cool, just I had never seen, you know, I just never seen landscapes like that. I stopped in West Texas to eat. It was like literally, you ever seen the Texas Chainsaw Massacre? I stopped in this small town, and I was like, this is weird. And the people were not exactly, they were kind of hostile. Like I was like an outsider there, and I was thinking of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre the whole time. But I stopped at this barbecue place, and it was delicious. And it was a bit strange, man. It had those like dead trees, you know, that you see in like the middle of West Texas, in the middle of nowhere. It's got these just dead, dry trees, and like, but it was cool. So it took me days to get through Texas. Texas is huge. So then I finally make it to Vegas. I call up Drew, and he's like, he gives me the directions to his apartment. I get over there. Drew loves to party. And Drew's got another roommate named Jose, who's from Ecuador. And so as soon as I get there, all I want to do is just take a shower and chill. Drew's just like, yo, give me a ride to the store. I'm going to grab one of those little Heineken kegs. I'm like, here we go, dude. Like, and this was Vegas in a nutshell. Just Drew talking me into getting shit-faced, basically, at every opportunity. So I'm like, man, I don't feel like... He's like, dude, you just got here, man. It's fucking Las Vegas. He's like, let's go, bro. I'm like, oh, shit. I'm like, all right, dude. We go get, you know, the little Heineken keg. We get fucked up. We drink all night. And, so then I'm there to do stand-up comedy, you know what I mean? So the first open mic I did in Vegas was at AJ's Tavern. It was hosted by Davio Thompson. He's like a legend in Vegas in his own right. He owns like a hairdressing salon now, which is pretty popular. It's called Curl Up and Die, which is pretty brilliant if you ask me. So it's hosted by Davio. I get there, I do my mic. I'm flying high off my last set in Florida, and I'm very confident. And I'm at this point, I'm realizing I'm pretty good at writing jokes. So I do this mic, and as it turns out, it's a competition. I didn't even know I was in a competition. I won it. And so they gave me as like, I don't know, $30. So I'm like, that's a good sign. I'm in the right place, you know what I mean? So of course, Drew talks me into spending that money on getting shit-faced, so we end up getting hammered that night. And we used to go to the Orleans, which is a casino that is not on the Strip, but that's a good thing because it's like, it's a cheaper casino. So this was back in like 2010. 2009, 2010. I moved to Vegas in December of 2009. So the cool thing about the Orleans is it's not on the strip, so you can shoot craps for like $5, and all the cocktail waitresses are really hot in there. Usually when you go to these like localish casinos, that it's just not, it's not the nicest casino, and the waitresses are not. But in this place, the waitresses were like hot, dude. So we loved that casino. We were in there all the time, and the dealers and all them liked us because we were such a fun little crew of people. We'd be like, we'd have the whole table rolling, like, you know. I'd be like, man, if I win this round, I'm gonna buy everybody a taco from fucking Jack in the Box. Jack in the Box has these fucking tacos that are like dog food, but for whatever reason, they're good. So, just shit like that. We'd be tipping the dealers all the time, and like, we just, Drew knew Vegas, so I just did what Drew did. Like, if I was winning, I'd be tipping the dealers, and so everyone liked us in New Orleans. And so we got to the point in New Orleans, even though we weren't like no high rollers, but they liked us so much that they'd give us free breakfast all the time. They'd be like, everyone, like they'd give me a pack of cigarettes if I didn't ask too often. I'd be like, yo, can I get a pack of cigarettes? And they'd be like, they'd check what, and they'd be like, all right. And one time I felt like such a G. I was like, yo, can I get a pack of cigarettes? And the dealer checks the other guy. He's like, yeah, we'll get you a pack. This other guy next to me shooting craps, he's like, can I get a pack of cigarettes? They're like, no. Like, so yeah, Vegas is cool like that. If you tip and you're cool to people and you're not acting a goddamn fool, and they know you, they're gonna take care of you. And if you take care of them, they're gonna take care of you, you know? And I wasn't tipping big. Like, if I'm winning shooting craps, I'll throw them a $5 chip. You know, they knew I wasn't no fucking high roller. They appreciate, like, it's like that, man. They don't, it's, Vegas is pretty cool like that. So, you know, I was enjoying Vegas, but then my unemployment, they stopped with the unemployment, the no more extensions. And it's not like I was rich, but I was careful with my money. I'm good with my money. I don't eat much. Every once in a while, I was winning with gambling. Drew kind of knows how to gamble. He ain't got no luck, but he knows what he's doing, you know what I mean? So he taught me some strategies that maybe I'll do a video on, because like in Vegas, the house always wins, but you can increase your odds, you know what I mean? So there's certain ways to play craps, there's certain ways to play roulette, there's certain ways to play blackjack. Like, Drew kind of had these things down to a science, but Drew was mostly a poker player. So, but he taught me a lot about just these little tricks with the other games that I could win occasionally, you know what I mean? But my advice is, if you're gonna go to Vegas, do not, you better set yourself a limit. People go out to Las Vegas and they lose their life savings. They lose their kids' college funds. They go out there and they fucking lose everything. And I'm not kidding you. This happens. Like, they lose their entire life. And I get it, because once you get to gambling and you're winning, and it's like, you just turned $20 into $400, you know what I mean? And it happened in like an hour. But then, the next thing you know, you turn that 400 into fucking 5. And you're like, what the fuck just happened? You know what I mean? Like, that's how Vegas is, dude. And so then the next thing you know, you're hitting the fucking ATMs in the casino, spending $25 fee to get your cash out. And, like, this is how the casinos are. They know how people are. Because, I'll put it to you this way. If you gamble long enough, you're going to lose it all. You might win. And here's my suggestion. If you get up, you leave. Just leave the casino. Don't sit there and try to turn that couple of hundred into a couple of thousand, because odds are it's not going to happen. You're going to get cocky. You're going to start doing dumb things. You're going to... It's just... That's just how it goes, dude. The only time I ever left the casino up was when I forced myself to leave when I was up. Plenty of other times, had I just left when I was up, I would have been good. But most of the time, I'd be drunk. They're giving you free drinks in the casinos, and they're good about it. In a place like the Orleans, the Palms, the Rio, like the cool casinos, as soon as you're done with that drink, if you're tipping the cocktail waitresses, I'm tipping them $1 on every drink. It's not like I'm... And every once in a while, if I'm winning, I like the cocktail waitress, I give her more, you know? If I'm really killing it, I'll throw her 20 or whatever. So, you know, they, like I said, they liked us. But, you know, in the crappier casinos, they're not gonna be so friendly with the drinks. They're just kind of stingier. So, you know, my advice is stick with the cool casinos. Like the only local like casino that I'd say is to go to is the Orleans, because I don't know how it is now. This was 10 years ago. You know what I mean? So, um, that was my favorite casino. They treated me the best in there, but that was the one I was in the most. And there was a strip club right across from the Orleans with really hot strippers, really fun. It was a cool, great strip club. But I was smart enough to not go in there too often. You know what I mean? I'm a sucker when it comes to I love girls, dude. Like a girl can get all my money right out of me. Because I don't give a shit about money, but I do love girls. So I avoided the strip club as much as possible. So um, so my unemployment runs out, and I'm like, I don't know what to do. So what ended up happening was I I couldn't really get like a regular construction job because I only had like the bare minimum of tools. So I was trying to go through like the labor pool. And throughout this whole time, I'm killing the open mics in Las Vegas and also getting booked on these shows that were great. Like Diaz Mackey used to run this show called Monday Night Raw at Black Label. Awesome. Like it was like an all black comedy club, which it was not an easy club because they're used to the high energy like black comedians who they're just so confident that they're gonna rule the crowd. You know what I mean? And my style is the opposite of that. I'm shy, I'm quiet, but I do these sharp little clever jokes that they love me in there. I was like the only white comedian who consistently killed that club. They fucking loved me in there, dude, which made me love them. You know, it made me love. That was my favorite place to do in Vegas, even though it was a notoriously kind of difficult room that you had to kind of have some nuts to go up there. And like, you know, the people who killed that room were the confident people who like nothing's gonna rattle them. You know what I mean? But I was the opposite of that. It didn't take much to rattle me on stage. I was ready to hide behind the stool at the slightest, you know. So I remember one night I killed it so hard in there that the place was jam packed. Like Diaz used to fill this room, dude, and I killed it that night. It was like every fucking joke was just hitting right, and like I killed that room that night. Everybody, they were acting like I was some sort of celebrity. I had rappers giving me their CDs and shit, and like, you know, they didn't want me to buy them. They're just like, they thought that I had like connections and shit. They're like, yo, put me on, bro. Like, like, you know, but fucking, that was my favorite room to do. There was other open mics where I'd walk an hour to like the Palace Station. We lived in these apartments right behind the Palms Casino. So I don't remember the exact layout of Vegas. I'm pretty sure we were right around like Arville and Flamingo. And so I'd be walking all the way to the Palace Station, which was in like old Las Vegas. It's in like northern part of the strip. So it'd take me about an hour to get there. But I didn't care. I was there to do stand-up comedy, and Vegas, if you're new to stand-up comedy and you need a place to practice, that is probably the best place on earth for it. Because like I said, these open mics and these little rooms that I'm doing, they're pulling full crowds. I mean, it was the best practice I could have asked for. And once I get to New York, I'll explain how New York comedy scene is. It's a whole different scene, man. But Las Vegas is really good for like a new comedian who's trying to just get his experience up and do actual crowds, not just these open mic crowds of like 12 comedians who they're all sitting there looking at their jokes. They don't give a shit about your set. And I don't blame them. I mean, I'm similar. I try to be supportive at the open mics, but I've been to so many that it's like torture to me at this point. So, the Vegas comedy scene, you know, like I said, it's like 10 years ago. So, I couldn't tell you how it is now. But back then I couldn't have asked for a better place to do stand-up. And I was killing it, and Drew was coming out with me a lot, so Drew was kind of known in these places too, because Drew was always with me. Me and Drew were like the same exact size, almost the same exact shape. Like, me and Drew are very similar. Drew's a little pit bull though, man. He's way more aggressive than I am. I'm a laid back, like, but Drew's the type, like, if he don't like what you're saying, he's gonna start arguing with you, and if you get him mad enough, he'll fucking punch you in your fucking face. Like, that's how Drew is. He got in so many fights in Vegas. He got me in a brawl. I guess I'll explain that in this video too. So anyways, man, I'm getting off track. So the unemployment runs out, and I'm trying to go to the labor pool. It's not working because there's so many people looking for work. Like I said, this was when the economy basically collapsed. So there was not much work in construction, you know? So I was going to Labor Ready, which was about a 20-minute walk up, I think it was Arville or Flamingo. It's somewhere in Vegas. So I'm showing up there literally at 5 a.m. every morning. I want to be first. I want to work. I ain't got no money. You know what I mean? So, and this is something I never experienced before. When I was running low on money, I'd always be able to get another job. You know what I mean? I've just in time, I'd get another job right before I ran out of money, but wasn't going that way this time. And I was starting to kind of panic. So I'm going to Labor Ready every morning. I show up at 5 a.m. Every day I show up for a week at 5 a.m. I'm the first one there every time. But what's happening is, and by the time it opened at like 7 or 8, I don't really remember, but maybe 6, by the time it opened, there was like 50, 60 people looking to work already. And so I was new there, and I didn't have a truck, and I didn't have any tools because I wasn't going to be carrying my tools all the way, you know. So the only people who were getting work were the people with a ride, and they were able to take someone with them sometimes, but they'd always take someone they knew. They never took me. So I showed up there for a week straight. I got no work, nothing, and I'm like, this is fucked up, you know, for a week straight. So you know, at this point, I'm not even eating much. I'm not going to start borrowing money off of Drew, or because I don't know where I'm going to get money, you know. So there was, like, you know, there was times where I was not eating much, you know what I mean? And so after I showed up there for a week straight, getting up at 5 a.m., getting nothing, I was like, Mom, this ain't going to work. Another place, I took a bus. It's like it's like a fucking 2-hour ride, you know, between switching buses and all this shit. Maybe it was like an hour, I don't know. I get there, I fill out the application. It's just a fucking labor place anyway, and I'm like, I'm not fucking getting up at 3 a.m. every morning to go work for minimum wage. I'm like, this ain't gonna work, man. So what ended up happening was I pretty much pawned everything I owned. I had a gold Gucci watch that I pawned. I pawned everything I owned, pretty much. My tools, my favorite tools that I had left. And after I pawned everything I owned, I was down to, I'm like, well, now I don't know what the fuck I'm gonna do, you know? So I'm thinking to myself, like, man, I've worked too hard my whole life just to be out begging for money. I ain't gonna do that. So, and I'm ashamed to say it, I started thinking, like, maybe I should start robbing people. I had a knife, you know, and I can't even believe I was fucking thinking like this, man. But you also got to realize I'd been listening to rap my whole life, and I thought that was like a brave thing, like a courageous thing to do. I was a dumbass kid. I didn't know shit. So I'd go out at night in Vegas, and I had my little knife on me, and I'm thinking, like, maybe I'll rob someone, you know? And I'm thinking to myself, like, it occurred to me that if you're gonna do this, you're gonna have to hurt people, like, because not everyone's just gonna give it up. They're gonna make you cut them. They're gonna make you stab them. They're gonna fight you. You may have to fucking kill people. Like, is this what you want to do with your life? Is this what you want to turn into? And I was thinking to myself, like, no, That's not what I want to turn into. And when you're out there with this mentality, people can almost sense it. There's like a black cloud around you that people can sense that you are potentially a danger. You know what I mean? So I I really got to thinking, and I'm like, nah, man, I am not gonna fucking turn into that. That is, God did not put me on this earth to turn into some sort of criminal thug that's hurting people for money. Like, these people are working for their money. You better work for yours. You're not just gonna take people's money, you know. And I'm thinking to myself, I'm not gonna hurt people for money. I'll rather, if I starve to death, then that's what I'm gonna do. I'm not gonna start hurting people for money. So I'm like, so that idea went out the window. And so I go back to the apartment. I've got no food, no cigarettes, no money, no nothing. And it's probably one of the most miserable times of my life. I couldn't even afford an Arizona iced tea or a Snapple or nothing. And so I'm sitting there and in Vegas the tap water is so gross that you have to boil it. So I had to boil myself a little cup of water. I was like, this is fucked, man. Like, I'm thinking to myself, like, why did God lead me here? Like, what's that prayer? It's I walk through the valley of shadow of death. I fear no evil, for you are with me. The Lord is my shepherd. He leads me to green pastures, you know. I was like, now if God led me to a barren pasture, you know what I'm saying? I'm out here fucking, I ain't got shit. I'm about to starve to, you know, I knew I wasn't gonna fucking starve to death. Worst came to worst, like Drew would buy me food occasionally too, and if I asked him to, he would. So I knew I wasn't just gonna fucking starve to death and die out in Vegas like one of them cow skulls in the desert, you know. And so I got to thinking, like, all right, I'm not gonna be robbing people. That's not what I'm gonna do. What else can I do? I'm not gonna beg. That's not what I'm gonna do. So I'm thinking to myself, maybe I can street perform stand-up comedy, you know? If I could go out and pull a crowd and do a set, I'll make a lot of money, you know? This guy Charlie Barnett used to do it in New York in Washington Square Park. You can look him up on YouTube. But the issue is, my style, Charlie's style, is that confident black comedian style where this dude will go out, he'll pull a fucking crowd anywhere and he'll kill them and he'll make hundreds of dollars. It don't matter. He's one of them people, he's just got that swag, you know, like so confident that he's going to pull a crowd and he's going to wreck them and he's going to get paid. And he almost, another interesting thing about Charlie Barnett is he almost, when Eddie Murphy got hired for Saturday Night Live, Charlie Barnett was competing with him. That was almost Charlie Barnett going and blowing up like that. But Charlie Barnett was an infamous heroin addict too. I think he ended up dying of either a OD or AIDS. I don't remember. Don't quote me. So, anyways, so I'm thinking maybe I can street perform, but you know what? I was too shy. I was too shy to do it. So I'm thinking to myself, what else can I do? So I decided, this is when I came up with my dollar joke idea. I'm like, one thing I can do, because I'm not good at just going out and approaching people and all that shit, but if I can get them to approach me and almost kind of force me out of my shell, you know, I can do that. So I made this sign that said, I don't remember what it said. Eventually it evolved into $1, one joke, money back if you don't laugh, all jokes written by me. It said something like that. So now this is an interesting story in and of itself. So I had no money, no food, no nothing. The day before I didn't really eat nothing. So, and I'm scared shitless to do this. I'm a shy dude. So now I've got to go sit out on the strip with this sign where everyone's going to be looking at me, and I'm an introvert, you know. So I make my little sign and I go out there and I'm walking around for hours. It's nighttime. And I never even had the nerve to put the sign out. I just couldn't do it. I could not do it. So I went back to the apartment that night. It's like midnight, 1 a.m. And the crowd on the strip was starting to thin out. And I was like, I've missed my opportunity. If I was going to do it, I should have done it earlier. So I go back to the apartment, no food, no cigarettes, no nothing. And it's miserable. I wake up the next day and I'm like, I ain't having another night like that. I don't give a fuck. I'm gonna go out there with the sign. I don't care if somebody runs up and fucking shoots me in the head. what can be worse than sitting there with nothing, the way I've been sitting there with nothing. So I go back out on the strip, and I'm scared out of my fucking wits. I walk around for another hour or two. Finally, I just absolutely force myself to sit outside a Harris Casino with my little sign, and I'm sitting there, and I'm like, I want to be invisible. I don't want to. I'm feeling like shame. I'm feeling embarrassed. I'm feeling scared, and so I'm just like, I was not enjoying sitting there with this sign. Like, people were walking by, like, no fuck, was this guy like begging, like, what, you know? And I'm sitting there and feeling not too good, and I'm about to just fold the sign up and give up on it and start going back to the drawing board, you know what I mean? So I'm sitting there, and up walks this thug looking dude. Like, it looks like some sort of like California gangster, like black dude, and I'm like, oh shit. So he comes up and he's like, man, what does that say? And I'm like, it's basically, I'll tell you a joke I wrote for $1, and if you don't laugh, I'll give you my money back. And he's like, that's a fucking good idea, man. I'm like, you think? Like, I was expecting to be like, what are you, a fucking idiot? You know, like, I'm like, you think? He's like, yeah. He's like, I think that's fucking pretty brilliant. He's like, that takes balls too, man. He's like, that's a creative. He's like, I've never seen that. He's like, I never seen nobody do nothing like that. And he's like, well, let me hear a joke. And I told him a joke, and he chuckled and gave me $1. And I swear to God, that dude was an angel straight from heaven, because after that, I felt like, I was like, wow, this is not such a shameful, embarrassing thing. He changed my whole mindset about it. My confidence went up. And the next thing I know, people were stopping and asking for jokes. Next thing I know, I got like $20. Now, you got to realize, I had been dirt broke for weeks at this point. Months, maybe. Pawning everything I owned. I just made like $20 in like a half hour. And I swear, it was due to this one dude who looked like the type who's gonna steal your wallet or something, you know what I mean? Like, he didn't look like no friendly dude. He looked like he was coming up to start some shit with me or something. But he ended up being a fucking angel in disguise, bro. And so, I wish I knew who the guy was, because I'd love to, whatever the fuck he's got going on, I'd love to plug it for him. But, and, you know, and I'm from New York, where people are not like that. He was from California. I could tell he had that California accent, you know what I mean? Like, he sounded like E40, like that type of accent, the rapper E40. And, you know, I'm from New York, where there's, you know, people ain't really cool to you unless you know them, you know what I mean? So I was shocked by that whole experience. And so after that, I just went out to the strip every night. I had multiple spots out there, and I was able to make enough to keep myself fed and to fund myself going to the open mics. I couldn't pay rent with Drew, but to Drew's credit, he didn't even give a fuck. He was like, man, let me tell you something. He's like, you just sleep on my fucking floor. He's like, I like having you around, and when you make it, fucking pay me back. And so, because Drew is very confident, he was coming out to these mics with me and watching me murder these crowds consistently. So that was real cool of Drew to do that. And so I guess I should get to the, man, all right, so am I gonna have to break this up into, this might end up being a lot of parts. I didn't even get to the part where me and Drew got into that fucking fight. All right, so I guess I'm gonna stop it here, and I'm gonna watch this video and see if it's if I can put it up, or if it's just me rambling and incoherently or what. But so I guess where I'll pick up on the next one is where me and Drew got into this brawl. And I tell you what, me and Drew, we're scrappy. You know what I mean? Like, we ain't big, but we can do some fucking damage. God bless me with some hard shots. I got dynamite in my hands, bro. And Drew's just fucking fearless. You know what I mean? So I watched Drew one time whoop this guy's ass with it. Drew had a drink in his hand. He didn't spill a drop. I'm not even... And this dude's like, Drew's a little skinny motherfucker like me, but we're tough, bro. I ain't gonna, like, we're both pretty tough. So after we got in the little battle with this guy, the cops all show up, and the cops are like chuckling at us. They're like, look at these little two motherfuckers. Like, where you guys from? We're like, well, we came from Florida. They're like, they look at each other. They're like, these crazy Florida motherfuckers coming out here fucking. Anyways, so I'll get into that story. I'll start off with that next time. I was going to try to do Vegas in one video. Apparently, that's not going to happen, because the next video I wanted to do New York. But, so, the next video, I'll finish the Vegas part and hopefully get to New York, or we'll see. We'll see how it goes. So, like I said, I appreciate all you guys. Thanks, dude. The people, you know, throwing me tips on PayPal, Cashapp, Venmo, like, thank you so much, dude. You guys are fucking awesome, man. So, like, but like I said, if you don't got disposable income, I'm not trying to put you out, bro. Trust me on that, because that's not what I'm here for. I'm here to just, I learned a lot from my experiences. I've had some very unique experiences in life, and I've got a lot to say. You know what I'm saying? So I'm here to say it. This is, you know, I'm not trying to, you know, take nobody's last out, none of that shit. So don't sweat it, bro. Like, just watch my videos and comment, like, subscribe. That's whatever, you know what I mean? So anyways, I'll do the next part maybe tomorrow or the next day, one or the other. It's gonna be tomorrow or the next day. I don't even, when the fuck is New Year's? We'll see. So I'll see y'all on the next one.